Good morning to all. My name is Rahul Kumar and today we will discuss paragraph jumble. So what is paragraph? A paragraph is a collection of sentences and normally is used to convey a concise idea within a large idea structure of a passage. And what is paragraph jumble? Paragraph jumbles consist of sentences not arranged in a logical sequence, and we have to choose the most logical sequence which would be most appropriate for conveying the message of the passage. In this video, we will learn the standard process of solving paragraph jumble questions and the 9 types of logic structure used in paragraphs. Standard process for solving paragraph jumble question. A paragraph jumble question has to be solved using the 4-step process, which automatically occur one after the other, and one step leads to the next and so on. Step first, idea grasping phase. In the idea grasping phase, the focus has to be on identifying the main and supplementary ideas which constitute the message being conveyed by the paragraph. This gives us a clear picture of the main and supplementary themes running through the paragraph. Step 2, paragraph structure identification phase. In the paragraph structure identification phase, we have to try to identify the logical structure used in the paragraph. Step 3, specifics understanding phase. In the specifics understanding phase, we have to try to fit into the logical structure identified in step 2 and the minor details of the keywords used, and we have to identify the logical sequence of the sentences and also try to fill the minor gaps in our understanding of jumbled sequence. Step 4, incorporation phase. In the incorporation stage, we have to integrate the ideas presented in the sentences in our own thoughts process and try to apply them in a structured logical string to test whether the chosen sequence conveys the idea or theme accurately to the reader. What to look for when we solve paragraph jumbles? So now I am telling about the 9 types of structure used in standard writing within paragraphs. Type 1, cause and effect structure. As you can see, the names itself suggest the cause and effect paragraph consists of 2 parts. First, the cause, and second, leading to the effect. And the paragraphs of this nature will normally contain defining words like hence, because, causes, leads to, and etc. Let's take an example to understand. Statement first, the governance of the Ashoka dynasty was amongst the most efficient of its time. And statement second, it led to the elimination of crime and created a general feeling of security in the masses. We can easily see the first statement is cause and the second statement is effect, because the second sentence is depend on the first sentence. Type 2, generic to specific. In this type of paragraphs talks about a generic idea and then backs it up with a specific example of the same. This flow of this type of paragraph is always from the general to the specific. Let's take an example to understand. Statement first, economic justice demands a diminution, if not a total abolition, of the proportion of the national income which goes to the recipients of the rent and interest. And second statement, but when the holders of railway shares are given government stock to replace their shares, they are given the prospects of an income of perpetuity equal to what they might reasonably expect to have derived from their shares. If we see in second statement, there is but in starting. So we can say that this statement comes after the first statement. And if we read the first statement, that is a general statement. And the second statement is a specific example of first statement. Type 3, contrast. This is based on the contrast or opposite of one idea against another. In such a presentation of ideas, there is a transformation from one point of view to the opposite point of view, and both the point of view are presented with equal force. This type of paragraph is often signified by a turnaround point between two parts of a paragraph. The turnaround point is signaled by the words such as a but, on the other hand, as against, however, although, etc. These indicate a transformation from one point of view to other. Let's take an example to understand. Statement first. In the late 90s, Brian Lara strode the cricket field like a colossus and all-conquering batsman who had few equals in the history of the game. Statement 2. However, his presence was not enough to inspire his West Indian teammates, resulting in one of the worst periods of West Indian cricket, coinciding with Lara's extraordinary artistry at the crease. Now in the statement there is however in the starting, and we can easily say that this statement comes after the first statement, and if we will read the first statement, that is a positive sentence, and in second statement after however, if we will read that his presence was not enough to inspire his best Indian teammates, that this is a negative sentence, and these indicate a transformation from one point of view to the other. Type 4. Parallelism. In such a kind of writing, we will come across two parallel points of view presented one after other, and we would find keywords such as likewise, similarly, just as, equally, in the same manner, etc. Let's take an example to understand. Statement first. The investigator directly assessed relations between racial attitudes and values and argued in favor of linkage to the two clusters of values. Statement 2. One of these cluster, individualism, corresponds to the Protestant ethic values emphasized in discussion of symbolic racism. And statement 3. The other cluster, communalism, which emphasizes concern about community and the well-being of others, has been neglected by theorists of symbolic racism, as has the idea that these values conflicting implication for racial attitudes produce ambivalence on the part of white Americans. If we will read the first statement, there is a two clusters of value, and one cluster is defined in second statement, and other cluster is defined the third statement. So statement 2 and 3 are talking about the parallel concept one after the other. Type 5. Idea, explanation, elaboration, completion. In this type, one sentence will present an idea and then it is either explained in details or elaborated or completed in the subsequent sentence. Let's take an example to understand. Sentence first, I was lucky, and sentence B, the bus driver applied the brakes a meter or two away from my car. If we will read the first sentence, I was lucky, it is present an idea. In second sentence, it is explained the bus driver applied the brakes a meter two away from my car. This is elaborated the first sentence. Okay. So second sentence comes after the first sentence. So we can say I was lucky because the bus driver applied the brakes a meter or two away from my car. Type 6. Chronologicals. It based on the time dimensions. It suggests the successive sentence will be demarcated on the basis of time dimensions. Normally, successive sentence will take you further along in the time, and all the action sequences have a chronological sequences involved. However, chronology is not just used to illustrate action sequences. Let's take an example to understand. Statement first. Sigmund Freud, the oldest child of his second marriage of Jacob Freud, the Jewish owner of the small cloth mill in the little Austrian town of Freiburg, was born on 6 May 1856. And statement second, owing to the change brought about in weaving by Industrial Revolution in 1860, Jacob Freud moved to Vienna and there set up as a cloth merchant. If we will see in the statement first, there is a time 6 May 1856, and in statement second, the time is 1860. So we can easily say that the second statement comes after the first. Type 7. Action sequence. Action sequences depict a set of action logically connected to each other, and that in normal circumstance this action sequence will have a chronological sequence involved. Type 8. Idea transformation. In this presentation, a concept is introduced in the first sentence and is the following sentence draws from the concept and present a new dimension associated with the concept. And that the key difference between this type and the idea elaboration type is that the latter elaborates and explains the idea introduced in the initial part of the sequence, while this type uses the idea presented in the start of the sentence sequence and portrays a totally different dimensions to it. Let's take an example to understand this type. Statement first. If this sense of humanity came into being in the course of evolutionary history, then it must have a component parts, and they in turn must be identifiable. Statement second. It is my conviction that we are beginning to identify these components, that we can see the gradual emergence of humanness in our evolutionary history. If we see the first part, it is talking about component parts, and if we see in the second statement, this is talking about the beginning to identify these components. That means second statement is refers to the first statement. Type 9. Idea reiteration. The sentence sequences which use this structure of argumentation will start off by giving a point of view followed by one or more sentences reiterating the fact. Let's take an example to understand. Sentence first. Sachin was one of the best batsmen of his time. And second, in fact, he was so good that his team hardly ever lost a match. If we see the first sentence, there is Sachin, which is noun, and if we see the second statement, that there is he, that means he is refers to Sachin. He is a pronoun. That we can easily say that the second statement comes after the first sentence, and the second sentence is also reiterating the fact that Sachin was one of the best batsmen. Now I am telling about the basic tips for solving paragraph jumble questions. So first, finding the starting sentence. It is one of the keys to solving the question correctly in the location of starting sentence. Second, locating the topic sentence. Mostly one of the sentence in a paragraph will introduce the main topic of the paragraph. This sentence will give us the key to the entire paragraph, and the topic sentence might be the clue to the first sentence of the passage, but that is not an absolute rule. Third, finding the general theme. We have to find the general theme or main idea from the jumbled sentence may require some skills, but be careful, reading can reveal which idea is the central or the main one, and can be found if it is most frequently used or when most of the other sentences relate to it. 4. Finding logical relationships. Once you have found the general theme, so we should relate the ideas and opinions found in the sentence and place them in a logical sequence, and we can look for the iteration of the ideas in the sentence to form a whole, and the words of phrases that signals emphasize or a shift in a thought and the relation of the one idea to another. And 5. Finding the concluding sentence. The concluding sentences will normally wind up the argument without leaving any loose ends.